Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video we have another budget update and also our budget results. So we're gonna have a look at how we ended up spending our money in June after we had done our budget, and then we're also going to be setting our budget for the month of July. I'm always excited to do these budget updates, so without further ado, let's get started. So let's have a quick run through when it came to our budget in the month of June. Now if you do like the look of this template, this is also something that you can access. So it does come with a net worth statement, a sinking funds calculator, and then you have the choice between a monthly budget template or a weekly budget template depending on how you get paid. So definitely check that out if you are interested in it. I will leave a link in the description below for you. But when we started the month off in June, we had actually gone under budget for the previous month. So we had about £3 to carry over, and then our income came in and we put money towards our savings and investments, our essential bills, and also our sinking funds. And if you're subscribed to my channel or you've watched these budgeting videos before, then obviously you will know that I tend to go in much more detail in the previous budget update. So definitely check that out if you haven't already. I will leave a link up here for you and in the description below. But let's move over to, of course, the most interesting part, which is how we ended up doing with our general spending. Okay, so moving over to the spending category, one tip that I would definitely give is when you're tracking your spending, don't just track your spending and then, you know, be done with it. One thing I like to do is I like to track our spending and see how we spent our money, so that when I'm thinking about next month's budget, I can go back and see, you know, did we budget enough? Should we have increased it? Should we have changed anything? It just gives you a good idea so that the next month you can be a bit more realistic with your budget. So if we have a look at our spending budget, the first category was transport, and we had a budget of £160, and we ended up spending just slightly less, £150 instead. So not too bad when it came to the transport category. Next up, let's have a look at groceries. So for groceries, we initially had a budget for £235, and that's because we were actually budgeting for 5 weeks this time. Normally we would only budget for 4 weeks, but you know, the way we got paid, it made sense to budget for 5 weeks. So when it came to this category, we ended up spending just slightly over. We spent £237 instead of £235. So it's not actually that bad. Actually, I think we did relatively well considering the fact that food prices are still continuing to increase quite dramatically. To only go over by £2, I will 100% take that. So 237 instead of 235. And if you're liking this video so far, then feel free to give me a thumbs up, as it really does help to support the channel, plus it's free. Then next up, let's move over to toiletries. So we had an original budget of £40 for toiletries, and we spent slightly less, which was good. So we only ended up spending £37 instead of £40 for toiletries. And then next up, we do have our individual spending. So this month we did allocate slightly more, partly because we were budgeting for 5 weeks instead of 4 weeks, but also during the summer we decided to increase our spending category because we tend to go out much more often during the summer, whereas during the winter, I'm not gonna lie, I don't like to leave my house, so I'm not gonna spend that much during the winter. And so I would say that's also another tip when it comes to budgeting. If you realize there are different seasons where you tend to spend a bit more money, make sure that your budget reflects that, so that when there are times that you don't spend as much money, you can then save that money, so it almost balances out by the end of the year. And so for me personally, with my spending, I always spend it all, pretty much. And then when it comes to my husband, for some reason he tends to save a lot of the money. I have no idea what he's saving for, but you know, I'm naturally a spender, he is naturally a saver. So yeah, I guess that's truly reflected in terms of how we actually spend our money when it comes to our own personal accounts. Then next up, let's talk about personal care. So originally we did have a budget for £30 for personal care, and we didn't end up using that. So essentially personal care was £0. Let's move over to date night. So date night can also include takeouts. We just lump it under one. And originally we did have a budget for £90 for the month. And partly because we didn't end up spending money on our personal care fund, we used some of that money for date night. So instead of £90, we ended up spending £111. So you can see within our budget, if there are areas where we don't spend as much money, we will likely compensate that for another area. So in this case, it was our eating out budget. Then we also have my gym membership, so that's $21.99, and so that was a direct debit. Disney Plus is also a direct debit, so that's $7.99. Then we also had miscellaneous, so we had an original budget of £30 for miscellaneous, and we did spend slightly more on this category. Instead, we ended up spending £45 for miscellaneous, so about £15 over the original budget. And then we did also have some loose change, so we added that to our pennies pot, and so whenever we do have any loose change at all, we put money into that pot, and then hopefully it will grow over time and we can use that for something else. But you can see that when it came to our budget for the month of June, we ended up in the green and we actually had £5 left over. So you will see in next month's budget, we have carried that £5 on, and to be honest, with all this high inflation, every little helps. Okay, so let's move over to July, and I want to talk through how we've actually allocated our money for this month. So as I mentioned before, we had an underspend last month of £5, so I've included that in the budget. And if we move over to the income, we actually had a lot more money to use this month because of my husband's workplace. He works in the public sector, and as you may know, if you're in the UK, there's been a lot going on when it comes to the public sector. So he did have extra money, and so you'll see how we distributed that. And then also I had my salary, and at the moment I'm reinvesting money from my business as well. So those are the only two incomes we used to budget for the month of July. So let's move over to our savings and investments. So at the moment for this month, when it comes to savings, we have put $1,300 into that, and that is to continue saving up for our house, and we've got another £50 each going towards our investments. Again, we're really prioritizing the house more this year, so we're not investing as much, but hopefully once the house is sorted, we will start to invest much more. But in terms of our total for savings and investments, that comes to £1,400, which is slightly more than what we have been saving for previously, but that's obviously because my husband got some extra money this month, so we decided to put some of that towards our savings. Next up, let's move over to our essential bills. So when it comes to rent, we are paying $1,150. Our water bill is $52.75. Electricity and gas is £117.96. Council tax is about £136. Broadband is £26. And then we also have my husband's iCloud, which is 79p, which I'm pretty sure they are increasing, so I need to double check with him how much that is going to be. And then we've also got our SIM contract. So my husband's SIM contract is £12 a month. My contract is £10 a month. So if you are based in the UK and you may be looking for a SIM contract, we use Voxy. I will leave a link in the description below for you if you are interested in using Voxy too. And then we also have TV license. So last year we didn't have it on our budget because we actually paid for the year. This year we actually decided to pay for it monthly, and so with this month we have to pay £26.50 for the TV license. And then we also have our tithes, charity and giving, and when it comes to giving, it's really important to us, especially because we're Christians. So for us it's always going to be essential, hence why it is under our essential bills. So let's move over to sinking funds, and there are a few changes when it comes to our sinking funds. And if you don't know what sinking funds are, they're basically just expenses that you want to save up for over time. Rather than just paying one lump sum from your paycheck, you decide to save for it bit by bit. So when it comes to our sinking funds, we have £50 going into our car maintenance pot. When it comes to our dentist appointments, we were setting aside money for that, but because my benefits have slightly changed, I actually get my dentist appointments paid for, so it means we don't have to save as much for our dentist appointment, and the money that we have is pretty much enough for like 2 trips to the dentist, if that makes sense. So we won't need to put money into that pot anytime soon, which is great. Then we've also got my husband's rugby registration, which we set aside £10 a month for that. We have set aside £10 a month for a clothes fund, £10 a month for a presents fund, £10 a month for a skincare fund, plus we also have £50 going towards a wedding pot, because we do have a few weddings over the next year, and especially if you're part of the bridal party, it's not going to be cheap, so we're preparing for that. And then we also have 2 extra sinking funds that aren't usually on there. So the first one is a holiday fund, and we have put 1100 into a holiday fund, and that is because we may be traveling next year. It's not set in stone, so because we had all of this extra money, we just decided let's just put the money there so that over the next few months we don't even need to think about it. The money is pretty much sitting there. So that's why we've put a lot of money into our holiday fund. And then we have my husband's work registration, which is £50, and we decided to just park that money aside so that we don't have to worry about it again for the next year, or we don't have to take it out of our, you know, paychecks later on. So with sinking funds this month, the total is £1,290, which is definitely not as much as we usually put into our sinking funds. This is just an anomaly since my husband had, you know, extra money from work. Now let's move over to spending, and we are back to budgeting for 4 weeks. So let's move over to transport. Now with transport, usually we'll budget about £120 for the month, but this month we're going to be using the car much more often, so we've increased our transport budget to £160 instead. When it comes to groceries, we've actually set a budget for £185 this month, and that's mainly because we may not be at home as often, so I kind of feel like we may not spend as much on groceries, but you know, we'll see. The way these food prices are sometimes, like I just honestly don't know, so we'll see how much we end up spending, but we've kept it at £185 for now. Then with toiletries, we've kept that at £40 for the month. Our own individual spending is £125 for the month. Personal care, we have allocated £35 for that month. And with date night, we have also allocated £90 for the month. And then when it comes to our gym membership, that has also slightly increased because my husband is going to be paying monthly for the gym membership now, and he has like an introduction rate, so it's going to definitely be more than this, but at the moment it is $36.98. And then with Disney Plus, that remains to be $7.99. I really hope they don't increase the price of Disney Plus. We'll see though, the way inflation is, we'll definitely see. And then with miscellaneous, we have a budget of £30, and then we had some money left over at the end again, so we have decided to add that to our pennies jar. So you can see that the total we're hoping to spend is about £839. Now, if you're someone who's maybe realized that you struggle to stick to your budget and it's stopping you from saving as much money as you would like, and you maybe want a bit more support with that, then definitely check out my one-on-one coaching, because what I can do is help you to create a budget that is easy to stick to so that you are able to save much more money, and hopefully you'll then be able to start having money so that you can start investing that money and making that money work for you as well. So make sure you do check that out. If you haven't already, you can book a free call just to find out more about working with me. So I'll link more information up here for you and in the description below. But I'm happy with how June went. I'm hoping July will also be the same. July does seem very, very busy in terms of what we're going to be doing, so I think that will be reflected in how we spend the money. But at the moment, I'm quite happy with the budget that we've set for this month. So if you did like this video, then please do give me a thumbs up if you haven't already, and let me know in the comments, how did your budget go last month, and do you also feel like grocery prices just keep increasing? I do post every Tuesday, so if you would like to know more, then of course you can subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys next week.